I had met my wife in Las Vegas while she was on holiday.
I wouldn't know that story.
I was living there at the time, and she came in, and we had met in Las Vegas, and sparks flew. And she goes, you know, you were always supposed to come to India. And she sold, I mean, she's not a salesperson necessarily, but she sold me. She sold me in saying, you know, she made like, well, I'm there. And I was like, well, now I'm going to come to India. 100% of men are at risk for prostate cancer. Not a certain demographic, not a certain dietary, dietary ingestion of anything. It's 100% of all men whatsoever. So, what does yoga help do? I love India. I think this is an incredible country. What needs to change is the perception around seeking help for mental health. That has to change. When I came here and recognized that, back in the United States, I had a good number of friends that were dealing with some stuff. They were speaking to a therapist like that, and they were reaching a certain equanimity in their lives. But when I went over here and I talked to a few people, I said, man, you're dealing with a lot of stuff. Have you ever considered, speaking to a mental health professional? They're like, no, we don't do that here. I said, what do you mean? What do you want? I said, what do you mean? They're like, well, we have this concept called lo kya kahenge.
Welcome back to another episode of Level Up with Anona, where we take you one step ahead with every conversation of ours. Today's episode is brought to you by Sheth Brothers Pratikarthi. The guest is Brent Goble, a yoga teacher. Amazing person, I would say. I don't want to define his work and anything. Just go deep dive in this episode, watch and understand कि yoga जो हम सिखाते हैं ना उससे बहुत अलग है. There's a lot to know, lot more to know when it comes to yoga. Do like, do subscribe, and if you have any question, do share your thoughts in the comment section. Cheers. Hi Brent, welcome to the show. Welcome to Level Up with Anona. How do you feel?
I feel great. It was a late night and early morning, but I'm happy to be here.
You were in Goa last week, I guess, right?
I was in Goa. We have some new things that we're developing over there. But we're back and forth right now with my wife's business of Renee Cosmetics over here.
Yeah.
And I have the luxury of being able to kind of teach in two different places.
Acha, so you teach in Goa as well and in Ahmedabad?
Correct. During the pandemic, it was very much a time where everyone was remote, so I could beam in everywhere. Now that thankfully has kind of shifted into a place where we're doing less remote, and we're getting back to a place where I can teach in front of living, breathing people. Because the feedback when you're in the room with people is so much more potent, and it's so much more rewarding and gratifying rather than teaching somebody through a screen. I'm happy to do it.
Yeah.
I love the results that I get from people, but there will be nothing quite like teaching in front of a live person.
100%, of course. And I think in yoga, it's all about the vibration and everything that you even get when a lot of people are doing in group or even in individually, but
absolutely
the kind of energy that gets exchanged, I think that's really important, specifically, I think, when it comes to yoga.
There's a lot to that. Back when I was really training back in the United States, we would have classes of 80 to 100 people in the room. And good practitioners too. And sometimes people who were a little bit newer at the practice. But everybody who's having that physical, mental, emotional experience, all ascending towards that final goal, the room vibrates.
Yeah.
And you all get to bask in that together, and there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to build that community again of getting lots and lots of strong practitioners who know why they're there into having that same experience.
See. So, but like you have practiced in New York as well, like yes, in US also, then in Goa also, and like then in Ahmedabad. So these are like different cities or states with, you know, different perception, different people and all of that.
Yes.
So what is the difference that you see, how they perceive yoga in different places and, you know, in different countries as well?
Sure. I will say that I've had an amazing experience in both United States and in India. I will, going back to what you said previously, I really found my stride in first practicing in New York. I went to some really amazing institutes in New York City. I went to Jivamukti Yoga, another place called the People's Yoga of New York, and Kundalini Yoga East. I practiced for a good time there, but the energy of the place that you practice very much matters. When you're going to a place that teaches, probably 20 classes a day, spread out over 5 or 6 different little mini shalas in the realm of this entire floor that they've blocked off. And David Life started that organization. He also studied with Padavi Joyce back in the day, and so he kind of took his offshoot of Jivamukti Yoga from Ashtanga Vinyasa, and he and Shannon Gannon, they both developed this entire practice, and it's really caught on. They have a number of different studios, both are organizations, shalas, institutes that you can call it, in New York and in Berlin also. They also do a 300-hour program in India. And, you're around some yoga practitioners that there's an aura, A-U-R-A, there's an aura around everyone. But this practice really helped develop and create a very incredible presence about everyone. And it's really something to be said for that. So I studied there in New York, and it was a wonderful place. I also studied at Kundalini Yoga East. Kundalini Yoga, and we can get into this later, but Kundalini Yoga is a very different form of practice. Whereas in regular Hatha-based practices, you're doing set sequences with things, you're doing various postures. In Kundalini Yoga, you're very much doing a lot of what somebody might call Kapalbhati. It's also called breath of fire in the Kundalini practice. And that's meant to really work on the endocrine system, the endocrine glands, the hormonal glands in your system, to really effectuate certain processes to happen. We can get into this later. I worked on it for a period of about 3 months, but I was doing 2 classes a day for 3 months.
There in the US.
There in the US. And it really blasted me wide open. I would say that I very much overdosed on this certain practice, because Kundalini Yoga is also a place that, for it to be truly effective and for those things to settle and to simmer and for you to process, you need to be in an area that is very calm, like this wonderful place that we're. For yoga to really have those positive effects, you really want to make sure that your environment is harmonious. You want to make sure that the people you surround yourself with are people who are like-minded and not going to clash with all the things that you're trying to integrate.
Because ultimately you're trying to free your mind.
Of course you are. Yeah, that's a very good point. Very good point. Eventually, I moved out of New York, and I found my way to Las Vegas.
And
it was very much a 180 for me. And in Las Vegas, there is a very thriving yoga community there. Even though one might think stereotypically that it's a place of
to just chill and party,
a lot of, it's a very, very big casino, gambling place. It's a very vicey state. I was there for 5 years. I maintained myself very well, but there is a strong yoga community, and from the yoga community, there is a very strong circus community. And dancers, circus performers, even fighters like UFC, all of them share an extremely strong sense of personal and mental discipline. Circus performers specifically. And when people think the circus, they think clowns, they think, oh, my son or daughter wouldn't join the circus, their life is complete.
Yeah.
Actually, the exact opposite is true from all of my experience. When somebody goes to join the circus nowadays, it's a very, very serious discipline that they're working on, whether it's trapeze, whether it's the art of clown, whether they're a dancer, whether they're a hand balancer, whether they have any kind of act within the circus. All the circus performers that I've ever met were incredibly disciplined in their craft.
I think because that's the part of art and creativity. Now, whenever you go towards that, whenever you go towards creativity, you have to maintain a certain sense of discipline and your own space. You have to have your own space. That's how you can perform better when it comes to whatever art you indulge in. Absolutely.
It may not be a very lucrative career, but I've found that it's for people that are extremely involved in it. It's incredibly rewarding. May not be lucratively, but it's very rewarding from a personal achievement standpoint. So, to get back into what we were saying, there was a very strong circus community that was an offshoot of the yoga community. Now, also with me, I found myself into yoga because I was a dancer. I did a lot of musical theater. I was a singer. I was an actor. I did a few tours around the United States. I had my college honors in it. Wow. So this was the career path for me for a better part of 12 years. And
how did you get into all of
oh God, I mean, I shoot through all these different things, and there's a lot of where. So I had my college honors and high school focus in performance. And that was my thing. And I chose yoga for the specific intent to offset all the stress that my body was going through, living in New York, going through the auditions process of all the different productions that I wanted to do. And so yoga was great at helping me center myself before I would go into an audition. Now, I gained entrance to a few tours that I was doing after I did about a 9-month tour. And then I came back to New York. I was a little bit of a mental mess because tours are very stressful.
Yeah, of course.
We were with, my production company alone had at least 70 people within it. And so it was quite difficult towards that final months. And I was really relying on yoga once I got back to really help me process everything that I'd been through, all the places that I had been. I was fortunate enough to see all of the continental United States. It's a beautiful country. And Canada also. But it was a lot of hard travel for us. And so again, yoga was a sense for me to become centered from all of that, all of the different experiences that I had had, all of the interpersonal conflicts that you developed. It really helped me gain a sense of clarity and maturity, processing that.
Yeah, so I think it's the same. Like when it comes to yoga, be it any country, be it any place, the one motive that people think of is to just get into that center, to just find their space. But I want to ask you one thing also here then. Like a lot of movies, and even I was watching a lot of podcasts also, like Eddie Stone ka podcast I was watching. So there's this one thing that I see, which is very common, ki whenever a person who thinks of, getting into a space and moving towards enlightenment and spirituality, why they particularly chose India. I mean, I want to ask you, like, what is the perception of India in other countries? Did that came into your mind as well? Like, you want to show you want to see your space and you want to visit India and how it works and what are the vibrations there?
So let me first start off by saying that the reason that I ended up in India was I was originally terrified of India. And to even travel here, I knew like I didn't have a lot of friends at the time who wanted to travel with me. A few people that I always recognize as going to India, going to the opposite side of the world, as something that's a big life change to do.
Of course.
And I had met my wife in Las Vegas while she was on holiday.
I wouldn't know that story.
I was living there at the time, and she came in, and we had met in Las Vegas, and sparks flew. And she goes, you know, you were always supposed to come to India. And she sold, I mean, she's not a salesperson necessarily, but she sold me. She sold me in saying, you know, she being like, well, I'm there. And I was like, well, now I'm going to come to India. So I came to India, and culture shock, of course, the understanding that they're while living in the United States, you have a very myopic view, and this is so common with a lot of people that people in the United States think that the United States is all that exists. Maybe United States, Europe, a few other places, but in coming here, you know, I recognize that people have a completely different, the values aren't different, but the priorities, the shaping, the color of those values is a little different. The communication is different.
Of course.
And that was a lot for me to adjust. Now, to get back to your question, why is it that they think that India is the sole place for... Well, because yoga came into fruition here in India. Of course, you know, one can argue that it started in Nepal, but yoga has found its fruition in India. Okay, let's not, you know, we don't, that doesn't need to be an arguable point. For the sake of argument, it came its fruition in India. And so people feel a calling to it. They know that a lot of centers that are in America, they found their base, their roots are in India. When one starts to really find their grounds in the yogic practice, they eventually get drawn to the place where it was originated, where the source of yoga is supposed to be. And so there's the inclination to visit temples. There's the inclination to travel to Mysore to study with all the different teachers that come in there.
Because I saw a lot of interviews and a lot of research that I did. Many people visit to Mysore when it comes to yoga. So is it a hub sort of thing?
Absolutely it is. You know, I will say that most famously, India Yoga Dhamma, where I studied with Bharat Shetty. He's a wonderful, wonderful man and incredible teacher. He has his institute there. Sharat Joyce, who is part of the Ashtanga Vinyasa Padabi Joyce lineage, he also studies there. And he's made an incredible legacy for himself. I had the privilege of practicing under him for a short, 5-day workshop back in Mumbai when I was living in Mumbai. And he fills up the room also. It was a giant room that we were in, and it was like... It was kind of like it was the voice of God as I was practicing underneath him.
So if I asked her, but if a layman, if a normal person, if they think about yoga, so there are, like we were discussing off camera also, so there are two things that comes in mind. Either it's asanas or either it's meditation. So I want to ask you, for you, what is yoga? Is it just confined to that, or is it beyond?
Yoga is a tool. It's a means to achieve enlightenment, to achieve that absolute self-awareness.
So what is enlightenment for you?
Enlightenment is understanding that you're no different than the divine. You are part of the ultimate consciousness, and we are all just merely reflections and sparks of that great unity. Call it God, call it the supreme consciousness, whatever you will. I believe that we're all very much part of that. And yoga is just another tool in a large toolkit of what people use to achieve that enlightenment, to condition their body and their mind to receive that awareness. So yeah, yoga is very much a means to achieve that place where you are one with the divine. Now, in my life, I have received sparks of that, instant, nanoseconds of woof, and then it's gone. Woof, and then it's gone. And I think over over the purpose of teaching, you're trying to get a little bit more understanding, the more that you can condition your body and mind to harness that understanding. So is yoga for me postures? Absolutely not. Is yoga for me meditation? They're not one and the same. You know, it's yoga is a state of it's a state of being. I don't consider doing yoga as a verb. The verb is to practice for the ultimate end goal, to be that state of yoga. If one sees another person making postures, are they doing yoga? Well, not really. They're practicing yoga postures, achieving a certain mental state, opening up their bodies in a certain way to harness more energy, call it prana, life energy. And so the end goal is ultimately to be in a state of being one with the divine, body with the mind, mind with the divine, mind with the soul, body with the breath. You're yoking two separate states into one, and that bond is called the yoga. Huge, however you.
Like I heard that you entered in yoga with a certain intention. But now I want to ask you, what is your purpose ultimately? Like, what is the highest goal of yoga? If I ask you,
highest goal is to reach that self-realization that you are no different than anything else. Everything is one with yoga. You are part of the divine. And from that, from eventually yoking yourself to that main source, all these other secondary things start to happen. Your purpose begins to be revealed. You're a much calmer person. The material world doesn't affect you in nearly the same way once you realize that the highest mental or the highest state of being, what is actually true, is what matters, and not all the things that are stressing you out in the real life. And so I think in this day and age, in these common times, people very much need that higher power.
Yeah, of course.
It's very much a thing where, the anxieties, the depression that's with a lot of people, the vicey, addictive behaviors, the self-destructive mentalities, we have very much drifted into a kind of self-worship rather than understanding that the self is part of the divine, and we should be yoking, we should be pushing ourselves into that direction. We should be pursuing things that are from a moral center is where we need to be approaching our lives.
But according to this, then yoga is it's a process. It's a lifelong process. But right now, if I see the lot of, like you said, today in this time we need this. We need that mental calmness, and I think spirituality and yoga, it's in wave. Like, people want to be there, people want to learn, and people want to understand. But along with this, it comes like 21 days yoga. You practice for 21 days, and then you'll be done. You are there. So does that make sense to you? I mean,
yes, it does.
It does?
Yes, no.
Okay.
What's difficult about the yoga process? You made a very great point. What's difficult is the consistency of it.
Yeah.
I read something recently. One of my students put this up. It's that the process of yoga and meditation actually has no palpable extrinsic value. Extrinsic, outwards. It doesn't really change the outward perception. It changes your inner workings. And so people nowadays, with all of these external perceptions of the world and how the outside looks, if nothing's affecting that outside perception, then intrinsically they don't want to really put in that work. So what a 21 days program does is I don't want to say it locks you in, but it keeps you confined to that repeated 21-day effort. And 21, people have their various definitions of why 21 days works, but a good 3 weeks to really effectuate a change in a person, I really do believe that keeping somebody confined to a place where they have to wrestle with the benefit, with the process of yoga. And this is another point that I want to make, but yoga isn't always a beautiful process. It's oftentimes, it's very beautiful right at the beginning, and then it plummets you down. And then you have to, it's a slog. It's a long, hard slog to get up to that place where...
Because you're not able to perform the things that are required.
It's not, it's a mental game too. But yoga is also the process of unlearning things.
Right.
And it's an ugly process because you realize that certain things that you have habitually been attracted to, maybe certain goals that you have, they're things that ultimately won't benefit you in the long run. And there's a lot of traumas that you also have to address. And a lot of my other students that I've worked with, you know, we get to a point, and posturally speaking, with postures, people find that extrinsic value in, oh, I achieved a posture. Oh, you know, I'm now in this state of yoga. It's like, no. It's just, you're just making shapes. You know, we rely on the shapes to help open up our bodies, but the yoga postures inherently, they are devoid of yoga. They're just postures. Now, we can put the yoga into them, but the postures are not the yoga, okay? Just like I teach handstands, and handstands are a great way to help people overcome fear. But I tell people, handstands, headstands, arm balances, they're not yoga. But we can put the yoga into all of these things. And then we can make them have some more meaning in our lives. So, again, the process of yoga is not always a beautiful experience. And we get to that point with certain students, and then they fall down. And then they realize, wait, this yoga is not really fun anymore. And it's like, well, yeah, it's not fun because now it means something. Now it's hard. Now we're working on something. And where'd you go? You left. Yeah, yoga didn't really work for me. It's like, no, it literally was working. You left just as it was starting to get difficult. And that's where the growth takes place. And you know, having a son recently, you realize that it's not the fun things in life that bring growth and meaning. It's when you're super challenged and how you meet those challenges. How are you reacting? You know, how are you keeping your composure in the state of the storm? And that's where the growth comes in. And with that yoga process, if you can weather the storm, and I tell people this in our classes all the time, if you can breathe through the discomfort, I promise you it will pass. Change is always constant. This too shall pass. And when you can continue to learn to breathe, to not let all those stressors take over your entire state of mind, and you realize that this too shall pass, it eventually does. And then what do we always witness after a storm? We always witness the nice, calm, quiet. The sky is a little bit more beautiful. There's different smells in the air, all because you let the storm pass. You breathe through it. I tell people, enjoy the storm also. Enjoy those torrents of energy.
You said it perfectly right. When the hardest part comes, when you go through it, then the growth happens.
The growth happens.
That's like...
But we have entered in a state of being, and I attribute this misinformation, this malinformation, to do what feels right. And do what feels pleasurable, and that is an incredibly poisonous phrase.
Makes sense.
Don't do hot, sharp, stinging pain, but the dull, cold, steady slog of responsibility, or a forward fold, it hurts. No, it's not gonna feel nice, but it's good for you. doing the things that you need to do, either going for that opportunity or putting in the paperwork or doing the job. It's not always going to feel great. There's not going to be a lot of immediate reward in it. But what's on the other side of it? What's on the other side of it. And what's the pain of not doing it? So this whole phrase of do what feels right has, I think, poisoned a lot of people's minds that, oh, this doesn't feel good. This doesn't feel good anymore, so I'm not going to do it. It's not good for me. It's like, yeah, but life is going to be painful. You don't have to suffer from it.
And it's a psyche also, na? When if things comes easy, na, then also you don't like it. So
yeah, exactly. And then where do we find ourselves?
Exactly. So it's like the tough part. You're just running back. You're taking a step back because it's tough. But when it's easy, then also you don't like it. So
exactly, it's got no value because you didn't really work for it.
Exactly.
You ask anyone who, my wife is an amazing example of this. She has slogged for countless sleepless nights, fighting with vendors here, back and forth, and the initial everyday little of dealing with something, but eventually we're working towards a big payoff.
Yeah.
We're working to the point where, well over 500 people have jobs, have livelihoods that they've achieved, all because you went in through those small individual efforts in order to achieve something greater.
Yeah.
And there's value in that. There's gold, there's potency, there's meaning and purpose into all of those times that, yes, it was tough, but you did it and you didn't die.
Yeah.
You didn't die. You didn't break something. You didn't snap something.
And those are the moments that makes you happy now.
Yeah.
You think about those moments when you didn't die. Exactly.
So we made it. We use yoga as the word is crucible. And that's a place that we can set things in, and we set it on fire to burn them. And so we can use yoga as a place where we get to test out, certain physical and mental things that are difficult, and we get to overcome that. That's our little time that we can practice overcoming stressors that are outside ourselves. And we achieved that. And therefore, you have more confidence. You have more self-assurity. You have more belonging in what you're doing. So yeah, I know I'm kind of going ade with all this.
And through this podcast, in every video and whatever conversation I I always try to focus on this, that at least even two people who are listening, if they move towards something great, like in terms of the be it manifestation, be it yoga, be it their health, but I think these are really important, because the more I talk with professionals and people like you, I understand the importance of giving yourself that time, that energy, that 5 minutes where you are just yourself. I mean, that's really important, and people need to know that. And that's why I try that the more I can spread this energy actually. So I think that would be like really great. So that's really important for sure. So like you mentioned about the temples and everything when it comes to yoga. Have you visited an Indian temple?
I have. I have. Shamefully, I can't remember a lot of the names, but I've been to countless temples that I've been to. Another one was right outside of Mysore, and I'll get the name to you later on. But I went with my yoga TTC when I was there, and in unbelievably intricate architecture, and the presence of the place was so solemn and stoic. You feel it. And I remember we were having an initial tour that was in there, and I was there with about 16 or 17 of my other colleagues that were in the TTC.
Yeah.
And they all kind of scattered out, and I'm like, I just kind of want to stay in this chamber right here. And I sat down, and I just kind of went into, a premeditative state. And I don't remember anything else that happened, but I remember my body just kind of evaporating.
Oh, wow.
And just kind of getting absorbed in, because this place had been here for God knows how many hundreds, if not over 1,000 years. And I just whenever I put words to something like this, it kind of cheapens it. But I will say that everything just didn't really matter anymore. And I just kind of my body just kind of separated into all these different fragments, and it kind of got absorbed. And all I was sound. All I was the sound of my own breath. My body I didn't feel any discomfort. I didn't even feel where I was sitting anymore. And when I came to, after a period of like maybe 30 minutes, when I came to, my legs weren't numb or anything. I was just right back to where I was. And I remember processing that, and I couldn't pinpoint a dang thing. And I think that was the point. I didn't feel positive or negative about it. I just kind of got absorbed into something else and then reintegrated back. And so I encourage anyone that if you're going to a temple, and if it's conducive to just sit and to just try and listen to the sound of your own breath, and just let yourself become absorbed in the space itself. Don't try to make a prayer. Don't try to set an intention if you don't want to. But I mean, if you want to do that, that's fine. But if you don't know what to do, just sit there. Come into some kind of cross-legged seated position. Even your back support is fine.
Yeah.
Just sit there for a period of 10, 15 minutes. If you're uncomfortable, just change your position. But be in that space and to just absorb all of the millennia, the years, the people who have crossed it. Let yourself absorb all that. You'll have a beautiful experience. And I think people go to take pictures and touch the wall.
True.
And maybe there's a statue that's doing a yoga pose, and you also want to make the yoga pose next to the statue.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. But go there to really take it all in. And I think the best way to take things in is to sit quietly and to just receive. Maybe at the end, you can give a little bit of yourself towards that temple to leave your energetic imprint.
Yeah, true.
But overall, that is the gift right there, to be in the presence of that amazing structure and all the people who had been there previously, and the people who created it, and the people who nurture that space, who preserve that space.
And even in fact, like, there's a science behind everything.
Oh, yeah.
Why I'm saying that, but like you mentioned about the feel, the energy and the vibration. So if there's I was actually reading about it. If there's a bell that we, when we enter in a temple, in Indian temples, we ring a bell, right? So actually the science behind that is, whenever you ring a bell or something, so there it creates a vibration, it creates a frequency, basically sound frequency, it creates energy, and you're supposed to stand beneath it. You're supposed to stand and absorb that energy. That's how you feel positive. But like you mentioned, people just go there, they just do it, and then they just pray whatever they want, and they just go back.
Here, record me ringing the bell. Oh, you did it. That's great. You get it? Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, you got it. Good.
Exactly.
Let's keep going. It's like, you missed it. You missed the thing. You missed the actual gift.
Yeah. So that's there for sure. But I want to ask you, so whenever you enter into a journey, a spiritual journey or anything, you always need a guru. That's what I think, and you always need a guidance to move ahead. So who is the person that inspires you? Is there anyone that you feel that, yeah, this person inspires me, and I think that's how I want to be there?
There's many incredible people that have crossed my path. I can't pinpoint one singular guru. I have read countless stories and biographies of people who have met their one Maharishi.
Yeah.
Their one Sadguru, their one Buddha-like teacher. I have incredible respect for people like Sadguru, for a number of different people, but I will say I am yet to meet the one person who makes me quake, who deep down in my soul shakes me to my core. And I've been to a number of Sadhguru does that for a lot of people, and I've been to a number of his programs. I have great respect for him, And I will just say that he is not the one for me, but I still believe in what he says. But just for every individual person, that person is different. So I am yet to meet that one teacher who really quakes me to my soul. I've met a number of really amazing people who have steered my ship in the right direction, who have just, and ever so slightly. But you extrapolate that distance across thousands upon thousands of miles. You just move it ever so slightly, and your life story takes on a completely different trajectory. And so I've met tons of people who have just steered my ship ever so slightly like this, and that matters. I mean, yeah, you can have certain people say, "Oh, you bump into someone and that changes life story." No, what I really mean is they've given me a piece of advice in my days that I needed to hear it then, and then I was back on this amazing path moving forward.
Makes sense.
I'm here in this country for a larger reason than to be with my wife, to start a family. There's still a greater purpose for me being here. My purpose right now is, of course, to take care of my family.
Yeah.
It's, of course, to share with what I know, but there is something that is still waiting for me
for
here
your own
in this country. And perhaps it's for, I am yet to meet that one person to really, again, quake me to my soul and tear me down in a number of different ways and help me rebuild it back up. I hold space for that, but I have actually stopped searching outside of myself and just relying on the practices that I do, that eventually I have faith that person will come steer me in that ultimate direction.
And I think that's the start. When you stop searching, it happens.
Yeah.
I totally believe.
Right now, with the addition of the biggest and most amazing thing to happen in my life, which was the birth of my son.
Yeah. How's the experience?
Oh, God. It's exhausting. It's amazing. The miracle of childbirth is a miracle.
Yeah.
And once you witness it, you will never be there. I don't know who I was. I have faint memories of who I was the second before he was born. But the second I saw him, my brain was completely rewired. My heart exploded. I was shattered into a million pieces, and he has built me again. Wow. And childbirth is an absolute miracle. I have never loved my wife more than after seeing him. I mean, I consider myself a fully integrated man now that he has been born. Now that I have a stake in the future, that I'm taking care of another little human who needs me. Yeah. And this concept of family and what it means to have a family. And I'm in that place right now.
Wow.
I am very much before him, it was really a state of, who am I? What is my purpose? What am I doing here? Then he was born, like, oh, now it all makes sense. Oh, now it makes sense.
It makes sense.
Because he is 99% of our world now. And so then that 1% there gets shaved down into job and friends and anything I need to do for myself. But the other 99% is all him. Yeah. We love it.
That's why I asked you. I mean, whenever it comes to, birth of a child, people always talk about how the life changes for a mother. But the life that changes for father, I can see. I mean,
it's the greatest thing in the world. Yes, oh God, kids are amazing. I know they're exhausted. Don't get me wrong. I mean, your life changes, and never for the bad, because children are innocent. They're wonderful little people, but you have a big responsibility to do, so it's work.
So you said it, exhausted but amazing.
Of course it is. Like, let's not beat around the bush. It's not a terrible thing, but yeah, 5 hours is the new 10 hours of sleep. And, but it's worth it. It's all worth it because, when, I love to sing to my son, and, when he's crying or he's a little gassy or something like that, and he's just, or you go through all of the list of things in your head that, okay, is his diapers out? Has he fed? Is he uncomfortable? Are his clothes okay? And finally it's just like, okay, I'm just gonna sing to you, and I'll sing the Gayatri Mantra to him, and eventually he goes, I'm like, yes, I did it. I achieved something. He's fine. And then 5 minutes later, he cries again. It's like, oh, shoot. So it's this incredibly rewarding process.
Yeah.
And
those little things, I think you feel you achieved something.
oh, yeah. And then all he has to do is look up at me and smile and just kind of reach out and just kind of do this to my face. I'm like, oh, I love you. So when he was born, my heart exploded, and all of this oxytocin and all of this dopamine just flooded my system. And I'm like, this is the best day of my life. And it was all because this little guy came in to our lives. And
I can feel the energy with which you're explaining.
And that, in caring for him in that state, there's so many different neurochemical things that happen, but spiritually, you're caring for something that is you, that this little guy is also you, and it's also your wife, and the three of you are now connected in this wonderful connection.
Wow.
And then all of the previous work that I had ever done about manifesting and visions and everything, all of these are coming slamming at me of all these future memories that we're going to have. And my body just gets flooded.
Yeah.
It gets flooded in this state of absolute bliss. And if I have him in my mind's eye and in my heart's eye, I know that sounds a little cringy, cliche, but if I have him in those places, I get realigned in some way. And he right now is the absolute purpose. He is the sole jewel in my life. And again, my wife and I have never been more infatuatedly in love with each other. We're exhausted. Sometimes it's not exactly easy, but each day is rewarding because we work for his comfort as an infant.
You're working with something that you guys made.
We own this, but we get back also all of this. We get back that satisfaction that we are raising something in love, in our responsibility, in our duty.
Yeah.
And there's so much gold in that.
I think everyone who is scared to have a baby, I think they should watch that.
Excellent point. Because a lot of what we're thinking about in this day and age is career. And those things are important. They're absolutely important. And the dreams that you have. But I will say that, as a 37-year-old, I will say, and my wife and I have had these conversations that, yes, we have had these dreams in our lives, but our one regret after sitting with him, after holding him after he's crying, so he's now sleeping, is that why didn't we do this sooner? Why did we wait? Because we wanted to achieve something? Yeah, okay, but he is leagues. He is an empire of love and achievement that goes far beyond any sort of personal achievement we could have for ourselves. So he's not gonna be the first. He's not gonna be the only one. I'll just say that much, because we absolutely are in bliss. And what's also really, really nice to know is that our friends all think he's a little magical little baby. They're like, this kid's magic. And there's been a few of our friends who have kind of looked at us and said, we always said that the two of us wouldn't have kids, but after seeing your son, we're like, we're getting the itch. We're really getting this itch now after seeing baby Alex, and we're like, follow it. Because you don't regret it. I mean, children change your life in the most magical, wonderful ways. I know some people don't always have that experience, and I'm sorry for that. I hold a lot of space for single parents in the world. And I also will never look at my mother or my wife in the same way again. And mothers, they sacrifice so much to bring these miracles into the world.
True.
And so if you're out there, this Mother's Day, you do something nice for your mother, all right? A phone call is not enough. And all those years of buying my mom like a crystal little penguin or a crystal little something, I'm like, oh my God, it was so embarrassing for what my mom had to deal with.
Now
Growing up.
planning to.
Oh God, yeah, it's gonna be a really nice thing moving forward.
Yeah, I was actually planning to ask this question to you, that does yoga, that spiritual consciousness actually help in relationships? But I think I have already gotten that out.
Oh yeah, and so much to go on that too. You talk about yoga helping find your purpose and everything, but they kind of feed in and out of each other, back and forth. And so I believe that having a son, having a child, will make you a better yoga practitioner. And being a yoga practitioner will then make you a great parent.
Yeah.
Again, when your child is in your arms and they're screaming, you think that they're in pain, or they're overstimulated, or they're sleepy, or they're gassy, can you weather the storm? They are their own little storm and beautiful little sunrise. All in one, and it can change on a dime, and so you got to be ready for that.
So you're just calm in all of that.
Yeah, you have to be the rock. And at first it's going to be difficult because they're crying. It's like, I broke the baby, what do I do? It's crying. It's like and then that was the initial first few weeks. It's like, the baby is crying, what do we do? It's like, I don't know what to do. And then after it's almost been 3 months now, it's like, baby's crying.
You must be feeling anything that happened is your fault.
Everything that you did is your fault. And then you just realize, wait a second, it's a baby. Sometimes babies just cry. Sometimes you didn't do anything wrong. You rarely do anything wrong. You just got to take care of it when the issue comes up. You have to meet the responsibility for when it comes. So you have to respond. You have to take that responsibility.
Yeah.
And has yoga helped me with that? Absolutely, it has. So now, almost 3 months in, little Alex is upset. Okay, come on. Let's see what the issue is. Let's see what it is. Yep, gotta change the diaper. Okay, here we go. Let's change the diaper. We do a little dance, and we come back. Little fella gives you a smile, and it's like, yes, I did it. All right. So
now that's your completely growth stage that after that storm.
And it's like, you know what, we weathered the storm. It's like, just a little storm, it's coming right through. Sometimes then the big storms happen and you're kind of like, okay, what are we gonna do here? You have another person, you have your either your wife or your husband that are with you, and you're saying, okay, let's keep cool about this. What should we do here? Okay, hand me this. All right, let's see what we do here. And it's a partnership. Okay, now you hold the baby because my back's hurting. Okay, then I'll take the baby back. Okay, now you bounce the baby. Okay, I'll go get some milk. All right, I'll go get the pacifier. All right. So it's this partnership that takes place, and in all of these exchanges through here, you're building this parenting process. You're building this wheel of what your family is. And I guess, I can loop this back in with yoga, that you're getting a place of where you're connected to your partner, you're connected to your son or daughter, and there's an effusion off of that where it's like it's this aura of family. I don't want to call it a cloud, but it's this feeling of this space that you're developing between the three of you. or 4 of you or 5 of you, that this is what our family is. This is the aura of our family. And in that is our efforts. It's our upsets sometimes that it happens, but it's our achievements, it's our setbacks, it's the challenges that we've overcome. And this thing, it's an incredibly new, beautiful identity that you've developed. It's this entire story that is the 3 of you.
Yeah.
And I mean, I could talk on and on about till the day is long.
No, I can. That's what I'm saying. I can actually feel with the essence, the passion that you're saying, that how actually you feel when it's happening. True. But okay, so a few things that I want to shift again and talk about technical about yoga now.
Yeah.
I read a lot about Yoga Sutras also, right? So first of all, if you give a brief idea what Yoga Sutras are.
So the Yoga Sutras were an ancient texts of these threads of aphorisms, short little phrases that Patanjali wrote that actually predate Christ. And they are, one can consider them the ultimate treatise on the on human psychology.
Okay.
Now, the first sutra is Atha Yoga Nushasanam. Now the practice of yoga begins. Okay, so that's the very first sutra that we have. And that statement, now the practice of yoga begins, in and of itself is a statement that is pregnant with meaning. Because you look at it and go, now the practice of yoga has begun. Now the practice of yoga is, now it's begun. And the more that you can, all of the sutras are meditations in and of themselves. You can chant them, you can just focus on what they mean. But the very, Eckhart Tolle, another great kind of modern age spiritual. He gives off a lot of vibes that he is enlightened in and of himself. His name's Eckhart Tolle. He wrote The Power of Now.
Okay.
He wrote an entire book on the power of now, and the very first sutra of the Patanjali Yoga Sutras is, now the practice of yoga has begun. So just in that one initial phase, you talk about the present moment. And all that the present moment is a fragment of eternity. But in that eternity, it's eternal. It's all these different universes that are attached in one, and you can experience all of it through this space between the inhalation and the exhalation. And that's where a lot of different authors will provide their commentaries about what that small space means, what that present moment means, that's free from all the other abstractions, from all of the various impressions that you have about your mind. That's, again, and this evolves into when is the best time to practice yoga, which is early in the morning, when the mind is free from all the things. You've just woken up from sleep. The mind should be...
It's the asanas or the meditation, being in silence and just processing your thoughts?
See, the postures are all meant to free the body up to sit for long periods of time in meditation. So the postures are just for conditioning. Now, you can meditate within the postures. The postures can be considered a meditation in and of themselves. But what the postures are meant to do, like if you look at all the ascetics, the Hindu ascetics or the yoga ascetics, the sannyasis, they don't do, okay, now I'm going to do 5 minutes of shoulder stand. Now I'm going to do trikonasana. Now I'm going to do a standing forward fold. They'll get up there and they'll shake out. They'll stretch their toes. They'll maybe do a few jumps. They'll pull the knees into this, and then they'll sit there for 12 hours. And so, a lot of them will look at Westerners and say, you guys focus a lot about postures. Why? And it's like, well, that's the representation that we have as yoga, but that's not, they're like, that's not the yoga.
Yeah.
If you're practicing 5-6 hours of meditation a day, then maybe you'll achieve some success in yoga.
And I think you rightly said it's mentioned somewhere also, like how the asanas also came into existence is basically the sages, they focused on, like, that's one story that I know is if the sages and the meditation part, like focusing on one thing, if you want to practice that and you want to reach to next level, that's why they entered the asanas part, because in those asanas you can meditate better. So it combines that way. Like ultimately it's meditation, but asanas are given so that, for example, any asana that you're doing, you are meditating better in that asana. So ultimately you're meditating, but through it's adding on to that. So that's one theory that even I heard.
In my belief and in the things that I've researched is that the asanas help free up the body, free up the mind in focusing how you hold yourself in a posture. Then once you get to a place of a regular seated easy pose, like Sukhasana or even Padmasana, then the body is freed up. The back is nice and strong. The hips are open. The breathing is free in and out through the nose. Everything in the neck is nice and relaxed because you went through the added effort of practicing those postures so the body can harness a larger amount of energy. Again, within what I just said, there's about 6 or 7 different offshoots that we can go into when we talk about Kundalini, or we talk about chakras, or we talk about...
I actually want to talk a bit about chakras because
Sure.
I've been reading a lot about it. So I just want you to tell what chakras are, and a lot of questions comes, you have to balance your masculine and feminine energy.
Sure.
So that's one thing that is really needed. So first of all, why to balance, and how do you get to know about that these energies are imbalanced?
Okay, so what are the chakras? The chakras are, from a very basic understanding, and for sake of argument, let's say that there are 7 vortexes, 7 different centers of energy in the body, starting at the pelvic floor, moving up towards the reproductive organs. Number 3, moving up towards the solar plexus, moving up 4 towards the heart center, 5 being at a place at the throat, 6 being a place between the eyes or at that pineal gland, and 7 being at the pituitary gland or the top of the head. Now, there are other schools of thought that say that, no, you actually have 12. No, you actually have 8. No, you actually only have 3. No, you actually have about 32 different chakras. It's like, okay, just for the sake of talking about how they're known in a wide general sense, say that there are 7, okay? So these 7 places make up a series of organs for the energetic makeup of the body. Now, there are things that you can't see. There are certain studies out there and research methods that they have actually measured certain pulsings of energy from those 7 spots in the body. Okay, they have said that, but it's more of a theoretical understanding, and because yogic science is mainly theory-based, meaning that it's not exactly conclusive. It doesn't work for everyone. But for the most part, if you follow these certain practices, they will yield some kind of effect. So these 7 areas throughout the body, are meant to be certain stages where in yoga philosophy, there's a lying dormant coil of energy at the base of the spine called the Kundalini. Okay. It's the dormant energy that once all of these things are perfectly aligned and the body and the mind are conditioned in such a way to handle this kind of energy, this coil of energy starts to rise up and basically arise at the 7th chakra, Sahasrara, at the top of the head. Okay, now that is a basic understanding. You can take it full stop from there. But people want to know more. They want to know, okay, how do I fix it with these places? Okay, absolutely giant word of caution here. Krishnamacharya stated in a number of his books that and Sadhguru has also backed this, and saying that these 7 places are not to be manipulated. These are places that, imagine that you live in an apartment. Would you hook up all the power to a nuclear generator into your apartment? No, you'll blow up.
Yeah.
And this has been documented in various other things where people have had these kind of psycho-spiritual awakenings, but their bodies and their minds were not prepared for it at all.
Yeah.
Krishnamacharya states that the bottom 3 chakras, the primal, the place of sexual creativity, and the place of, they call it ego, but it's a little bit more a sense of personal identity, personal willpower. These bottom 3 chakras are not to be messed with. They are your core foundational places of how you fit into the world, both your sense of primal security, your absolute basic needs of fight, flight, need for shelter, need for comfort, that sort of that very infantile needs lie at the base. Next is your either your creativity, and some of these I just come off the top of my head because there's so much more to it. But from a basic understanding, it's your sexual energy, but also your creativity, your sense of creation.
Yeah.
And then your third is your place of where you fit in your identity, whether it's your ego, whether it's your personal willpower, whether it's your sunken in, either as a sunken in sense of inferiority. All of these different things are incredibly important, and they're not to be messed with. That's what Krishnamacharya says. Now, 4, 5, and 6. Your heart center, your place where you love from, okay? And of course, there's probably people that are going to be watching this later on saying, oh, well, he didn't say this. But I'm just giving a very broad understanding.
Yeah.
So your heart center is the place of love. It's the place where you interact with your family, with your friends, how you emotionally deal with the world. Your 5th is a place of speaking. How you
Throat chakra.
through your throat, yes. The place where you know and you speak truth. 6 is your intuition, your perception of things, and your 7th is your spiritual connection. Okay, and again, these are very broad strokes things. You can dive into each of one of these, and you can write a book on each of these things.
Of course.
So the main things that you should focus on is your love in the world, your ability to speak truth, and your perception on things. These are the only 3 that you should work on. Everything else balances out over time through a good lifestyle, through addressing certain traumas that you've had in your life, through personal fulfillment. All of these things in the lower 3 will get worked out on their own. You shouldn't mess with them.
Yeah.
And Sadhguru also states this in a very good way. I know I say that he's not my guru, but at the same time, I have a lot of respect for what he says.
Yes.
You should be operating from that sense, but you shouldn't be messing around with things that you really don't know what you're doing.
People are doing that, but
Correct. Yes, they're very much doing that, and these things are highly, highly sophisticated in ways that you might get in trouble for saying this, but you can't take a TTC on chakra healing and really, really get to, like, these are incredibly sophisticated things that many books out there state that it takes well over a decade to just work on yourself in these chakra healing sort of methods. If people want to go out there and say that they're really attuned to this,
because
that's fine.
You go on Google, you just type how to balance my sacral chakra, like you're saying, though, and it's just there. The answers are there, and I know.
Going for that. I know that they're there, and again, I hope I don't get in any trouble for saying this, but a lot of these things that you're dealing with is you're creating a mental focal point for yourself to meditate into these places to balance out in a sort of mental way. But in all my years of researching these things, I am highly skeptical of just the ability to meditate and to fix yourself through that. I think that there are other means of things that you need to address that point to the chakras that you need to address and not manipulate them yourselves.
Right.
So, trauma, sexual trauma, or upbringing, certain parental issues, familial issues, things that have happened to you, addressing those things, I believe, then helps in a secondary fashion move those places into a state of balance. There's a number of really wonderful trauma-based yoga programs that are out there that address it. Yoga by itself helps balance these things out. But focusing on them directly, you need to be a very skilled person in order to bring these things back into a balance. There's a lot of people out there who assign colors to chakras, and in my experience, if that works for you, if you think things are balanced in that way and it works for you, then TK, that's no problem. You know, if it works for you, then fine. It's not a problem. I have a little bit of pause with certain people out there who say, you know, I took a course, I can balance your chakras. I'm like, wow, I think there'd be a lot of sages out there who might give you a raised eyebrow about, wow, you just took a course one day. I mean, did you go up into the mountains and practice with, you know, so on and forth and for like a number of years? No, I did it for I did a 3-week course, and it's kind of like,
and it's a thing, it's a prevailing thing.
I don't want to loop it in with this, but there's a lot of spiritual bypassing that's going on. And I think people look at healing chakras as a kind of as like this backwards method to address deeper things that are going on. I feel like it's a very surface level understanding. In yoga, as I said previously, sometimes it's a very ugly process.
Yeah.
It's not always pretty. You might come out of a yoga class feeling, oh, I'm high on the divine. And then the next day you feel terrible. And you feel this slogginess. And then you realize that, oh, I haven't dealt with certain things.
Yeah.
You know, and it's, what do I do now? Oh, no. Yoga made me think about all the times that growing up this X, Y, and Z happened. I don't want to do yoga anymore. And maybe the yoga helped understand that, you know, the chakras have been misaligned for this long, and now doing that practice will help coax these things back into alignment. But say, oh, I need to move the chakra back in, but you're not addressing the thing of why that's there in the first place.
Exactly.
And so if you're talking with somebody who's like, okay, I'm gonna balance your chakras now.
Yeah.
It's like, am I supposed to be doing it? No, it's just, I got you. Now I have had this person kind of read me, and she goes, let me talk to you about things that happened when you were 7. And we started talking about these things, and at the end of it, I was crying, and I realized, oh, wow, I didn't realize that was still hanging on to me. And she wasn't doing it in a kind of charlatan sort of way. She was kind of giving me a once-over like that, and she goes, tell me about this person in high school. I was kind of like, how do you know about that? And so we started talking about that, and she's like, you know, talk to me about X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And so it was a very psychological, therapeutic-like session. So if somebody is kind of going, okay, from a chakra-based standpoint, I see that X, Y, and Z is kind of misaligned, and I'll say, okay. But there comes a time where we need to address certain things that either yoga or therapy can help with, that help bring those things back. But pushing things back into place without understanding why they're there, why they're out of balance, I think is incredibly destructive. Because certain pulls, you can't push somebody back into alignment. You can help them, but they have to do the work themselves.
But how do a person, when they get into it, how do they get to know that they ultimately reach to that there's an imbalance of chakra, and then they start working towards it. But how do a person knows that there's something going? I'm not talking about the other three. I'm just talking about the ones that we need to work on. The four.
I think either some people might have this perception that certain energies of their body are misaligned. I think other people read a little too much, and there's not a lot of backing to what it's actually something else. I don't want to say that they're using the specter of a chakra imbalance as evidence that something is wrong. I think they need to do some internal self-reflection.
Yeah.
I think they need to do some svadhyaya, some self-introspection, some scriptural study, some practice, some kind of an austerity. What yoga helps do is it helps bring you into a steady rhythm of practice. We talked about a crucible, a place where we can test out certain things, we can test our limits and see where those imbalances are. And I don't think people should focus on their chakras. I think people should meditate. I think that they should address certain traumas in their life in a comfortable, in a responsible way. I think I am a huge proponent of therapy. I think I love India. I think this is an incredible country. What needs to change is the perception around seeking help for mental health. That has to change. When I came here and recognized that, back in the United States, I had a good number of friends that were dealing with some stuff. They were speaking to a therapist like that, and they were reaching a certain equanimity in their lives. But when I went over here and, I talked to a few people, I said, man, you're dealing with a lot of stuff. Have you ever considered, speaking to a mental health professional? They're like, no, we don't do that here. I said, what do you mean? What do you want? I said, what do you mean? They're like, well, we have this concept called lo kya kahenge. And I said, tell me more. And they said, what will people think if, they think, that they're going to think I'm crazy. My family's going to think I'm crazy. But, they say, Brent, I'm dealing with so many things. I was abused as a child, or my, I was beaten a lot, sexually abused. And I'm going, you need to speak with somebody. Like I love you, but you're a mess right now. You need to talk about these things. You need to come to a sense of peace with these things, so you can live your life in a much more meaningful and happy way. And they're like, no, we don't do therapy here. It's kind of we either have to swallow it, or we have to talk about it in a not safe environment with other people. And so what I really hope that, people watching this or whatever, that the people who are in your life that are telling you, the people that are in your life that are telling you that, no, you're not crazy, you don't need to speak with anyone, that is BS. People need to take the time to be honest with themselves about how they're feeling, about what they've been through, and if need be, talk to somebody that you love, talk to somebody that you trust, or talk to a licensed professional. There's a lot of really great people that are building amazing clinical practices around mental health, and they're doing a really phenomenal job. They are out there. And I've researched that.
The thing that people need to understand is expressing something is not making you weak, is not...
No, God, no.
It's actually showing that you're strong enough to accept what you're going through.
We're all human beings. We're all emotional beings. That's what makes life beautiful.
True.
Is how we feel about things, of how we express. And if you're in a place where you're feeling like there's a dark cloud, there's this horrible energy lying over you, you don't know what to do about it, you're not crazy. You need to talk to someone.
Yeah.
And I wish that, there was this perception that you're not doing well. You want to talk about it? No? Okay, but you should talk about it with somebody that is either an objective person that you can just get things off your chest. Or, and this is also I'm going to come back with a caveat on this. Other people say, oh, go do yoga. Go do yoga. And I also very much dislike that also. There's a lot of people who have come to me that said, my mental health is really bad. I'm looking for some peace in my life. And I don't ask them any questions. And I say, okay, come onto the yoga mat. Let's reach our arms up in the air. Okay? And I can see literally in how they're breathing and how they're looking around. I don't know specifically what they're dealing with, but they're dealing with something. It's another beautiful process of teaching yoga. But you shouldn't tell people, oh, go just do yoga.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. I still feel crappy. It's like, well, yeah, it's just, you don't know what you're doing, and you shouldn't tell people, just go do a yoga. That's the phrase nowadays.
Yeah.
Go do a yoga. No. We should understand why we're doing the practice and get with a teacher. There are countless amazing yoga teachers in this country. And you should
have to have that mental an intention behind
You should have the intention behind it, even if you're just curious about it. That's fine.
Yeah.
But yoga is amazing for these mental health pursuits that we all have.
Yeah.
And yoga...
I actually want to ask you, sure. In this space, when it comes to women, I have seen a lot of reasons why yoga should be done by women, be it hormonal imbalance or be it, strong uterus, pregnancy and everything.
Beautiful.
But when it comes to men, I mean, there's never I'll say an ad or anything that focus on about why men should do yoga, why men should do that.
I love this question. I absolutely love this question.
All those asanas.
Okay, so yoga was originally all practiced by men. It was a very privileged practice back in the olden times to only have men practice. And it was kind of sexist in that way that why can't the women practice also? It's like, no, this is only for the men.
Yeah.
Only the men can be enlightened. It's like, well, that's BS. So nowadays in our modern pursuits, there's a lot more. It's become mainly dominated as a more women-centered focus, and it's got amazing benefits for women, both in developing strength, both in hormonal balance, both in becoming more fertile for pregnancy. A lot of mental health, countless mental health benefits, especially with depression and anxiety.
Yeah.
But with men, and this is incredibly important, 100% of men are at risk for prostate cancer. 100% of men are at risk for prostate cancer. Not a certain demographic, not a certain dietary, dietary ingestion of anything. It's 100% of all men whatsoever. So, what does yoga help do? Manipulation of the pelvic floor, manipulation of the lower belly helps tone that pelvic health area for all men in order to alleviate the risk for that long term. Okay? It helps balance out those hormonal systems in all men, toning up that pelvic floor. I can't imagine going into my 60s, 70s, and 80s and not being able to urinate. I have talked to multiple men, and this is, it's a problem with women too, but mainly this is a problem with men as we get into our later years. The ability to not use the washroom, oh my God, that's terrible. Yeah. You watch movies about it, and this is like, oh, I'm not able to this. No, in reality, it's awful. It's a horrible, horrible experience. And so if we can use yoga to help keep everything down there working properly, both with a number one and a number two, oh my God, your life is going to be better. Elimination. I mean, it's part about being a human organism is the ability to eliminate waste.
And that's the issue. I mean, because the knowledge is not there, people don't know about it. That's why they don't focus on it. I think it goes that way itself. Like,
Yes.
oh my God, yeah, that's really important.
So as at a very extremely basic, the most basic in the ability to, at that first chakra point, the ability to release waste. That's what it helps with. It's like, do you need any more evidence after that? You know, and yoga, it's just yoga helps with that.
Yeah.
So, and then for testicular health, for sexual health, both for men and women, yoga is incredible.
Of course.
For that sense of breathing, you know, for manipulation of the diaphragm. You look at yoga practitioners who are up there in their 80s and 90s, and even some that are 100, that have been practicing yoga throughout the decades. You're looking and going, what the hell is your secret? It's like, I have my yoga practice.
Yeah.
I haven't left with it. It's like, oh, wow. I better start yoga. You know?
But eventually it gets too late when they realize I better.
Well, it's never too late to start.
Yeah.
But, and a lot of things can be reversed. But why wait?
But,
and you don't have to, and there's a lot of Instagrammable yoga content out there that is both inspiring and off-putting for a lot of people. You see people doing these beautiful, you know, these slender bodies and everything. You see people doing that. I'm sorry, that's okay. But in all of my classes, people are struggling with a standing forward fold. People are struggling to touch their toes. People are struggling to lift their arms up in the air because they have frozen shoulder.
Yeah.
People are struggling to turn their head to the right and to the left because they have too much work tension.
Right.
Their back muscles are atrophying. Their chest muscles are becoming so tight, they're developing something called upper cross syndrome.
There's a lot of issue of this spondylitis and everything is happening.
Exactly. And why is that?
Yeah.
This. Now, look at this in and of itself. My upper back is rounded. My upper chest is atrophying. It's cramped up. Look at my neck. Now, even if I lift my head up, this is the shoulder. These are the shoulders that I see in countless professionals in this country. They're here because they're either here or they're sleeping like this. And just to be able to tone those muscles of the upper back, open up the muscles of the upper chest, allow the cervical vertebrae and the neck to find that natural curve. Just that in general is going to greatly improve your life. But, you know, and a lot of people that are out there, they just need some of these little fixes. They just need these little things to work on just a little bit every day. You don't need to practice for an hour. You don't need to have a super slender body where it's that super tight warrior two, or even to do that scorpion stand, or, you know, a full bound lotus. You don't need to do that. It's okay. Sometimes just pull the knee into the chest. Sometimes get up, walk around a little bit, do a little stretch, do a little back stretch. Yeah. That's all you really need to do. Focus on your breathing. But to get to that place where we're holding our shoulders, I mean, back in the day, we used to travel, we used to walk everywhere. You know, nowadays we're all stuck. We're all stuck in this office. We're all in this 90-degree. Looks like it looks like a medieval torturous position. You know, just to get into that place where the upper chest is open, the breath is coming in and out through the nose. You don't have to do much. You don't.
So if I ask you one pose that you think that will be like a full body pose and that a person should do, I'm just asking.
I was thinking about this question this morning.
Yeah. So one pose that you suggest that everyone should do at least once a day.
Any standard, any either standing, seated, forward fold. By itself is one of the most therapeutic postures that you can do.
Okay.
A seated forward fold.
Okay.
A standing forward fold.
Okay.
Is an incredible thing. And you know what I tell all my students? Bend your knees. I don't care. Bring the lower belly, bring the chest to the thighs, reach for the toes, lift up your tailbone. Don't worry about if your legs are straight or not.
Yeah.
And this is another thing. all during that physical education class that we all went to, whether it was me in America or you all in India, is always like, lock out your knees, keep your knees straight.
Yeah.
Like, no, don't do that. Bend your knees. Bend your knees first and then work on straightening them. Then your lower back gets that elongation. Then you don't lock out at the joints. And once I tell that to people, they get up and they go, oh, I feel so much better. It's like, yeah, because you're not doing this position. Yeah. So any standing forward fold, seated forward fold is amazing. Interlock your hands behind your back, forward fold, and bringing your arms up back over your head. That's awesome. That really opens up the entire cramped up chest area, opens up the neck, opens up the entire front of the arms, so you can have that good circulation down the fronts of the arms, through the shoulder, in through that upper thoracic area. You're gonna be great.
And I think everything, talking to you, it feels everything lies in the basics. All you have to do is just start doing those basic things, basic poses or / exercises that are required.
And this is both for the people out there who are interested in yoga and for those yoga teachers who are not the teachers who've been teaching for more than 2 years, but the new teachers.
Yeah.
99% of your student base are going to be people who just need the basics.
Exactly.
You know, and people out there watching this, you just need the basics. You just need a few triangle postures to stretch out your hips. You need to have that forward fold. You need to maybe come into a little bit of lying pigeon or work out those lower hips. Those are the things you need. All throughout here, you need to learn how to breathe in these postures. In and out through the nose. In and out through the nose. None of that stuff. In and out through the nose to help that body open up. You breathe into those places where you feel that constriction. And you're doing the practice. You're doing it beautifully. At first, it's going to feel a little crappy. It's going to feel a little, but the more that you do this, the more that those tissues begin to relax. I tell 2 people, if you hold your breath, the body's going to feel like it's in fight or flight. It's going to hard. Because if you do that with the body in a stretching position, that's what's going to happen. Everything becomes really tight. Now, if we breathe, if we activate that parasympathetic nervous system, those tissues go, it's okay. The captain upstairs is telling us to relax. It's telling us to breathe. Hey, wait a sec. That feels awesome. And the more that we do that, the more these stretches start to feel good. We get to undo all of that trauma, all of those adhesions, all of that stiff fascia. Circulation improves, your breathing improves, less doctor visits.
Yeah,
or more comfort in traveling. I mean, I don't know how many of your viewers have traveled so much, and they've been sitting down, they get off a plane, they're like, oh God, ow, or they get out from the office and they're like, oh, I think I need to see someone. So yoga helps with all of this.
All of this and everything, I mean. Yeah. Okay. Through this also, I want to build a community where I want to focus on people focusing on certain things. So what I figured out, as much as I've spoken to so many people, there are 3 things, the 3 segments around which every problem revolves. Be it you, be it me, or be it any person. Okay. So if I talk about you or me, any problem that revolves is either around health or around wealth or around relationships. So these are the 3 segments around which every person is revolving and struggling and want to get detox. There is no other issue. But some end of the day it will come around this one. So that's how I want to create a community where I want to focus on #we detox together. Right? So that is why in all the 3 segments, I just want to ask you one simple question where I want to ask you, and how do you detox yourself, and a tip that you can give to my viewers also.
Sure.
Okay, so it's health, wealth and relationship. So the segment name is the Happy Hour segment, brought to you by Sheth Brothers, Pratikati.
Happy to be here.
Yeah. Okay. When it comes to health, how do you detox yourself from all the lifestyle, anxiety and stress issues?
I rely on my yoga practice.
Okay.
I rely on a practice that I can consistently do whether it's a postural practice or taking 5 minutes in the day, where I just tune in to connect to a higher power. And if you don't understand what that higher power is, that's fine. Follow your breath. Do everything as simply as possible for a period of 5 minutes, seated quietly, no distractions, phone on silent, disconnect from everything. I promise you, after that timer is up, you can reconnect and come back to all your problems.
Yeah. But that 5 minutes will give you something.
And after that 5 minutes, you get that clarity where, wow, I can kind of reapproach what issues I had in a different way.
True, very true. So the question is, how do you detox yourself from all the constant pressure of, achieving something, and you need to earn more, you need to keep earning, and this is not enough. So there's this constant pressure that you want to achieve something in your life. You're not there. So how do you detox yourself from that?
So from all the different people that I've studied over the year, they say that money comes and goes. I have seen people who are multimillionaires and multi-billionaires have money problems. I've seen somebody who is living in very dire circumstances, happy as can be. I remind myself of the smiles of both those income brackets, and I realize, do I have shelter? Do I have food? Am I okay, actually? Am I in danger? No. Okay. So it's not the worst. It's not the worst that it can be. Okay? No one's coming to knock on my door to take me to prison for not paying my taxes.
Yeah.
So in the state of, someone will always be ahead of you. Someone will always be right behind you. Focus on your goals moving forward. Try not to get involved in the rat race.
Yeah.
We all leave this world empty-handed. Try to remember what truly matters in this world, whether it's your family, whether it's your social circle. Call somebody you care about. Go do something fun. Go play a game. Get yourself out of that rut for a little while. Practice yoga if you wish. But money is not everything in this world. There are truly more important things to worry about than what your bank account says. Of course, there's a lot of people that say, yeah, well, it's easy for you to say. But no, it's true. We deal with money issues. The richest people in the world deal with money issues. The poorest people in the world deal with money issues. But again, who's smiling? Who's smiling at the end of the day?
True. Once you get out of that comparison zone, that social impact that you have in your head, I think it's whatever you deserve. If you keep doing towards, if you keep working towards it, I think it will happen. I think it's just...
Of course it will. And it's meant to. You have to keep changing, maybe change your plan moving forward a little bit. Try to stick to the overarching plan, but don't deviate too much. You might need to pivot here back and forth. Trust what you put forward, and if it doesn't work out, that's okay, because you have built up a series of trust, of commitment, of tenacity moving forward. That for the next plan that you run, you've banked all of that effort. The worst thing that I see people do is start on a plan moving forward, and they're doing really well, and they go, oh, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's really sad. Because you were building up so much, and then you bailed. Now what are you doing with all that effort, everything that you've moved forward with? And so stick with it. Deviate a little bit if you need to, but stay on that one path, that sine, cosine. You might need to go up and down, but you're still working in that one direction. And again, remember, richest person in the world smiles, poorest person in the world smiles. One still deals with money issues, the other still deals with money issues. What really matters in this life? Okay.
True. And the third one is, how do you deal with the constant pressure of expectations in relationships? Now you're also a father, so there are a lot of expectations that you have to perform on. So how do you detox from that?
Realize that everyone is always doing the best they can. And extremely, 99.9% of the time, no one wants to hurt anyone else. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes you might take things personally, but you don't need to. And the other person didn't mean for it to be personal. Everyone's trying to do the best they can to maintain their own happiness. Nobody wants to be upset. Nobody's like, I'm in a good mood. Let me try and ruin my good mood. You know, they're trying to be happy. Everyone's trying to be happy. Everyone's trying to do the best that they can, whether it's parents, boyfriends and girlfriends, or, you know, whatever relationship structure you have built up. Everyone's trying to do the best that they can. So recognize that I shouldn't take things personally, and they're probably trying to do the best that they can. And so if I operate from those two places, what else is going on? Okay, am I hungry? Are they hungry? Am I sleep deprived? Are they sleep deprived? What stressors am I under? What stressors are they under? And after you ask yourself back and forth, this ping pong back of a few questions, you start to realize, you start to gain information that supports why you were probably upset in the first place. So you can go through this mental checklist. And secondly, if, like, say, for example, like things between my wife and I have never been better, but certain times we need to take a break from one another. This happens with literally all relationships where, you know what, if you're not understanding one another and you're not communicating very well in whatever color that shapes up for you, go for a walk. Say, you know what, I think you and I have lost the plot. I think you and I aren't speaking very effectively or lovingly towards one another. I don't think either of us are really being heard right now. I love you. I'm gonna go take a walk real quick. Just to let this area clear. I'm not walking away from the problem. I'm taking just a little bit of a nice little break to let you, to give you some space, to give myself some space, and I'll come back and we'll readdress this, okay?
True.
Give me 5 minutes, or 10 minutes, or 20 minutes, or an hour.
Yeah.
But we will fix this. But let's just take a little bit of a break and come back.
True.
That's an extremely healthy way of doing it. And it's tough at first, and it makes you go, no, I want to eat the problem now. You know, but instead you go, you want to eat the problem? You want to eat all that? No, you don't.
Babe.
So just 5 minutes, you go do your thing. I'm going to go do my thing. Let's just cool off. You know, it's not helpful.
Yeah.
I'm going to go outside. I'm going to go take a walk around the block. I'm going to go, you know, have a cup of tea. You have a cup of tea. I love you. I'll see you in 10 minutes or 20.
Exactly. Ultimately, the goal is same. For
you both want to be happy.
You both want to be together.
You both want to have a wonderful relationship. You both want to have that team. That team's like, I got you, babe. Yeah. And you got me. And I know that in that we fly together.
Yeah.
Because that's what you're searching for.
Wow. This
life is all about, and I was thinking about this before, but this life is all about sharing it with other people. This life is such a precious, beautiful gift. And if you were the only person on earth, how happy would you be? No. You go on a trip by yourself, would it be as helpful as if you went to share it with somebody else? You get married, you're in a relationship. Why? Because you want to share this beautiful gift of life with someone else.
Yeah.
You have kids because you also want to share that with children. You also want to have a family.
True.
So if you're in it for those reasons, then what else is there? So sometimes when those relationship issues realize, oh yeah, what was the ultimate goal? To be happy, to share this life with somebody else, to enjoy this gift of life, of love, and connection. And you know what? This present conversation is kind of going by the wayside. So let's not make things worse. I'm going to go outside. You go outside.
True.
I love you. I'll see you in 20 minutes, okay?
True. That's very important. Yeah, I mean.
And my wife has done that with me, and sometimes I go, all right. And in reverse, I'll do that to my wife, and she'll go, fine. And then we'll separate, and then we'll come back, and I'll usually open the door and come in and say, hi. And she'll go, hi. And then we'll hark. And then we'll say, I'm sorry. And then it's great. And then you know what? Sometimes we'll have a follow-up and say, I was feeling this way, and I said this, and I'm sorry. And she'll say the same thing. Or sometimes we'll go, what were we fighting about? And that's beautiful also. And it's like, because you weren't really fighting about anything. You were just, and then it's over. And it doesn't matter.
True. It's over. You have to focus on that.
It's over. Come on, yeah.
Yeah.
And not everything is an issue. Sometimes you're hungry.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to take a nap. Sometimes work sucks. And you're about it. You know, sometimes it's just that.
True.
Sometimes you need a hug. Sometimes you need to take a nap.
You have to deep dive there.
Yeah.
Actually, क्या चाहिए? क्या चाहिए?
Yeah, क्या चाहिए?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wonderful. I mean, this is crazy. A lot of information, and actually, wo jo basic, the simple things that is required. I think that is yoga, and that is what you taught us today. I mean,
Always.
incredible. Thank you so much. Cheers.
Thank you so much. Cheers.
Wonderful session, and thank you for being here, Brent.
Thank you so much, Anona. This was wonderful. Thank you.